morning. Hi, my name is Katrina Huffman from New York. I started my own business recently called Infinite Impact, but I've been in the nonprofit space for over 25 years, leading both religious and secular nonprofits and working with leaders. And what I do now in my business is I work with mostly CEOs who have a vision and help them to execute that vision. I call myself a strategic executioner. Quiet, but hurry up and get it done, right? I let them go make the money and make the business. But I love Black people. I love all issues of Blackness. And so I'm honored to be here today with my friend and brother, Trey.
We met many, many years ago, and from the moment we sat down together, it was like, that's my sister, that's my brother. So one of the things that we're going to do today is, within our time, is again, have a conversation. If you've noticed throughout the theme of the conference, there's been a lot of conversation around legacy, impact, contributions, and things like that. I think when we came up with this idea of this conversation, we were thinking about this idea of really a presupposition, that is that we will leave a legacy with every single person that we encounter at every encounter. So you start thinking about that we are leaving a legacy, a thumbprint, a signature with every single person, no matter what actually is happening, whether you recognize it or not, right? And so even if we just breeze by someone with a great perfume or a great cologne, that's a memory that stays with them. But it also to keep in mind of the intentionality of just that presupposition in play is that if you imagine your thumbprint or your signature live and visible on every single moment of your life, would you be okay with that? If everyone's seeing every single moment of your life with your tag, whatever your thumbprint is, and we know, oh, that's something for them. And so I want us to think about that for this idea of really, we're celebrating the 250th year of the United States of America, but I also want us to start thinking about how we look at that moving forward. And so, Katrina?
So just as Trey said, and I'm going to kind of read to you a little bit because I don't want to forget these particular points, all right? I think they're very important. I think that we are in a moment where we have to carry a particular mantle. And we are in war, but we're always in war. They just don't always publish it. But we've been in war from the beginning because just how the United States was fashioned was around violence. So violence is not new to us. 250-year-old country that started off with a Declaration of Independence that said, we the people, but not y'all. The reason why I like the folks that are in the room, because we know that we didn't include us. However, our voices continue to be the moral conscience. And that's what we have to continue to do. What I loved about the panel before this is that they were talking about us and money and land, right? And we kind of like shy away from those discussions because we feel like that doesn't pertain to us. They will never allow us in the room. But we built this thing. The 250th anniversary of America is really more than 250 years. It doesn't start in 1776. It started in 1619, if not before then. So the first thing I want to encourage us as we're thinking about what the questions Trey is going to pose to us for discussion today is to remember the story arc starts before 1776. It started, and I say started because there are questions and historical documents that have come up to say that there was another ship before the one that landed in Jamestown, Virginia in 1619. So first thing is to understand the arc is very long. The arc is very long. Now, I tend to be professorial, so you have to pardon me. I'm going to give you some resources to write down, okay? The backdrop for this, you should read Howard French's Born in Blackness. Born in Blackness. Anybody who comes to the Festival of Diaspora, for every country you visit, always read Born in Blackness. Because it tells you how the disruption in our African countries to bring us over in the myriad of ways, not our complicity. People have told us we were complicit in slavery. We were not complicit. We were traitors. Not T-R-A-I-T-R-S, T-R-A-D-E-R-S. We had economies. So people like my friend here who's an investor, we've been doing this a long time. We're not new to this. But the story and the narrative and how they focused it makes us seem like we're not. So you come to 1776, we the people. A debate around, do we include slaves in this document? And Thomas Jefferson actually did include us initially as slaves, not us because I wasn't a slave, but did include the enslaved. But the debate was, if you include them, then you have to call them people. You have to call them people. You have to acknowledge their humanity if you put them in the document. So there was an erasure. And there was an understanding that the we did not include you and me. Any historians here, you know what I'm talking about? Okay. Then we won't go to the ratification of the Constitution, but let's just say 3/5 compromise. Why? Because then we were millions in the South. And if you include us in the Constitution, you have to not only acknowledge our humanity, but you have to acknowledge our ability to swing democracy and to shift political power. If what you're doing is voting, and you got millions of black people, you got to free them, now you have a 3/5 compromise. For every 5, you get 3. Again, a depletion and a minimization of our humanity, which is not real. Take a deep breath in. Are you breathing? You were always human, but policies were made in such a way to minimize, and it's really fake news, using Cheetah's terminology, right? It was always fake news. We built this. 250 years, a longer story, a longer arc. Also remember the Maroons. What I also like about the Festival of Diaspora is when we went to Cartagena, we went to Palenque, did we not? Maroonage. We built this. That we don't just only built it in the United States, but we built it in Colombia. We built it in Brazil. That was the power of going to Rio the year before last. And then you know what I learned every time the festival travels? Our American issues are diasporic issues. Police brutality in Brazil. Remember that? I was flabbergasted. Samba, the resistance. So not only do we have we don't have a woe is me story. Everywhere we went, we built arts and culture. So you go to Brazil, when we went to Rio, we did the tour, we saw the whole samba village, a little part of the city. That's us. You go to Old San Juan, my roomie was telling me this morning, blackness everywhere. The story arc is long, but not only is it long, we've been productive and we've been fruitful. Not just in arts and culture, media wants us to show happy-go-lucky, but our music, our art, our dance as resistance. Our public intellectualism as resistance. The final thing I'll say, this is not in my notes, this is a problem with giving a preacher a mic. We talk. And I'm gonna give the mic over to Trey in a second. There's a book called Before the Mayflower by Lerone Bennett Jr. And in this book, there is a section that's talking about the ratification of the Constitution. Are you familiar with the name Sojourner Truth? Well, Sojourner Truth, there was a black preacher, she said, well, the story goes that there was a black preacher who was like, well, hey, they're gonna create this Constitution. We're gonna be, free, and we're gonna have rights. And Sojourner Truth said, don't believe it, there are weasels in that document. Sojourner Truth. Now, all we know her for is, aren't I woman? And the lifting up her shirt in her breast. Every college campus that do, women's history always kind of bring that up. But it was amazing to see that this enslaved woman had an understanding of the politics and the economy of her time to say, that document is not going to be worth the paper it's written on for you. There are weasels in that document. And wasn't she right? We have amendment after amendment, and we went 12 amendments before it was like, okay, we're going to free y'all. We went 14 amendments before it says, okay, we're going to give you voting rights. We went 15 amendments, 14 amendments with due process. Why? Because she was right. You're standing on the shoulders of people who've always understood the politics and the economics. And that is why the festival, I think, is so important for us to continue to always come back and have this very serious conversation together around what do the next 250 years really look like? for us. This is not a they did this. The final thing I'll say to you, why this is critical, because we are the majority worldwide. That's not a fantasy. That is numerically accurate. And so my question for us today, and we're going to consider this in 4 questions, now that we have numbers, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to keep letting MSNBC tell us we're going to become a fascist nation? Well, it would be fascist if you let it, but we have never allowed it. From 1619 on, we have always been the people who resisted. The tools that they say are their tools and their policies are ours. They're our tools and our policies. Yes, do people try to shut us out like we learned in the last panel about liquidity and people blocking your access to capital so that you can be a developer and flip all of that? That is true. But what is also true is we have people in this room who are investors too. We have people in this room who are private equity. We have people in this room who are in that business. The festival is here so we can connect, build it, because we got some work to do for the next 250 years. I don't know if you saw it, but I was turning my camera around to show you because my little 8-year-old nephew FaceTimed me. And he calls me Godmom. Godmom, where are you? I said, I'm in Puerto Rico at a conference. I'm about to present. And I showed him the picture. He said, okay, I'll call you later. I love that moment because it reminds me of why this discussion today is so important. This is not a cute discussion. This is an important discussion. 250 years. This morning I was talking to somebody who's sitting here, Alicia, I think your name is, right? Aya. And we were saying, she was asking me about this panel, this discussion, and why it was important. And I said, because not only did we build the economy to scale, worldwide, across the Americas, across the world, but everything Black people have done in this nation has been mimicked everywhere. Let's just go to civil rights. Civil rights movement sparked the disability rights movement. You know, Section 504 in the 1973 Rehabilitation Act. The Black Panthers were key with making sure that that legislation went through in 1973, but they don't tell you that about the Black Panthers. You heard about the breakfast program, which is important. Thank God I ate every morning at school because of them. The 1960s, you had what was called the Third World Liberation Front that was mirroring the civil rights movement. Students all over the world took over and said, we want our rights, we want equity. Gay and lesbian, LGBTQ plus rights come to the fore because Black people fought for their civil rights. Need I go on? We're not new to this. We're true to this. The question becomes, what are we going to do for the next 250 years? And that is what this discussion today is meant to really help us with, okay?
And I think one of the things, if we put that in play, I would say that there's about 4 key or 4 existential questions that each one of us are trying to answer in the way that we move, our demeanor, our disposition, how we actually interact with folks. They're very, very simple questions, but actually when you put them into play or you just start to really consider them, they really build out mission and purpose for someone. And there are 4 simple things, and we're going to kind of do a little modification on that in a second. But think about this. Who are you right now? Thinking about your past to your present, straightforward, number 1. Number 2, who do I want to become? Right? So from the aggregate of where you are in this particular present moment, but also where do you want to be? Like what's going to happen there? Next thing is basically, what do I want to do? What type of contribution do I want to have right now? And also, what's the style? Or what do I want to do with that? Or how do I want to do it? It's the last question. Those are going to basically help you think about your purpose. It's going to help you write the story that you're writing every single day. And if you think about that, for us as a community as well, there's 4 questions that I want us to consider. Does everyone have a pad or a writing? I would love you to start writing these down because we know we don't have enough time. I tell Dr. Huffman all the time, it's like, hey, listen, I always go over time. I don't know why. I have way more content and things than I typically have time for. But I'm not going to close 5 times either, like a bad preacher. So, with the first question, and I'll give it to you. Well, if you need those first 4 questions just to consider, again, it's who am I? Who do I want to become? What do I want to do? How do I want to do it? 4 straightforward, simple questions. If you can get those answers down, you'll see how your story's coming together. Yes, ma'am. Who am I? Who do I want to become? What do I want to do? And how do I want to do whatever it is that I want to do? What I mean by that last question, too, sometimes it gets complicated. It's basically, again, it's like the style. It is, what's the effect of the contribution? Not just the doing, but like, how do I want to show up? Is it show up in love? And it's kind of like when you live out a particular mission statement. Many of our organizations, many of us in the room have a mission statement. Mine would be to lovingly lead and model a life of service with creativity, empathy, courage, humble ambition that inspires others to seek truth and emboldens them to change the world. Now, in those 20 or so words, hopefully, if you've known me for a while, if you're just meeting me, you'll hear or understand and feel one of those words, right? So if you think about that, that's where those four questions can help you build that out. Now, the questions that we're going to discuss today is, as a collective, who are we? As a collective, who are we? What are the things that we've brought to the world as of right now? We're going to do this in a little bit of a group. Number 2, we're talking about presence, not just here in the United States, but also across the Americas. Number 2, why are we here? That question about why is there and really important because it also helps to kind of dictate how the values have leaned us one way or the other. But it also gives direction. And so I'll start there before we, and we'll have a little bit of discussion there, and then we'll go into the latter 2 questions. How's that sound? So the first question is let's see, how many folks do we have here? Should we break them up in groups? How do you feel? Are we okay with doing open? Just everyone talking? Let's do it. All right, let's go. So starting with that, talk to us about who we are at this moment. What have we brought to the table? Kind of thinking about past to present. Who are we as a people? There are no wrong answers. You can even talk about your own experience and how you've made that happen. Resilient? Yeah.
People committed to equality.
People committed to equality, for sure. Contributors. Innovators, of course.
People of passion.
People of passion.
People of faith.
People of faith.
People with compassion.
With compassion.
People overcoming oppression.
Overcoming oppression. What else? Pain.
Waymakers.
Yeah, waymakers.
Diverse.
Very diverse.
Love-centered.
Love-centered.
Spiritual.
Spiritual. Here we go. Ready?
Committed to the cause of unity.
Committed to the cause of unity.
I heard a word at the last one.
Uh-huh.
Someone said lonely.
Lonely. Interesting. Say more? Yeah, 'cause I want to know what you mean.
Yeah, there was a gentleman who shared how we get to a particular place of success. We get into particular rooms and how we have to navigate those rooms accordingly. And oftentimes that can breed a sense of loneliness if at any point in that journey you become disconnected from self or if you become disconnected from people.
I was going to have a quibble to that end. I was like, well, depends on how you navigate that, but absolutely, for sure. Anyone? Anything else? Interdependent, absolutely. Go for it.
I think right now we are unsure
we're the watchers right now. Bernie, yes. Say it again. Looking for direction. Yeah.
So say your name for me again. No, Hayward, yes. I should never forget that name. I'll tell you why later. Hayward talked about rest. Did anybody hear about the 92%? So I was a part of 92% for 2 minutes. Because you know why I got up off my couch again? This is a picture of Shirley Chisholm and Diane Carroll. Shirley Chisholm was the first black person really to run for president of the United States. Okay, she became a congresswoman who ran for president. And Shirley Chisholm had a lot of barriers, including that she didn't have the money to run a campaign that would win. But she had the courage and the power. And what we get from, in the sidebar, what we get from Shirley Chisholm too is that idea if they don't invite you to the table, bring a folding chair. So I got off my couch because I was gonna be like, you know what, I'm exhausted. You know, this country just taking us through and blah, blah, and I had all the things. And I'm not hating on or angry with anybody that participates in the 92%. Rest is ministry. Please take a nap. But for those of us who are awake, let's go. Because if Shirley Chisholm had stayed in that zone, Barack Obama would have never been president. Jesse Jackson could have never run. Okay? So yes, exhaustion is real. It is. Folks, my great-grandmother would say, they wore me out, right? But at the same, and also at the same time, the more time we spend determining not to be resilient, the more time we determine not to be waymakers, is the day that the country begins to sink. It really does, and that's not me exaggerating. History shows us that. When black people decide we're going to step back, it's a global crisis. It's a global crisis. I don't mind I just want to kind of, I'm not dinging it. I'm just telling you why I had to step out and be like, all right, Shirley, ancestral intelligence, is that the term y'all using now? Ancestral intelligence said, get up.
Yes, Denise.
I just wanted to share, because you made a great point, Doc, about the 92%. So I am still part of the 8%. However, it's not that I've timed out. I use a word that I didn't use probably for the majority of my trajectory, and that is no. So I'm saying now yes to the right things and not just doing things because somebody asked me to do it. It has to be directly impacting my people in my community, whereas 5, 10, even 20 years ago, I was saying yes to things that had nothing to do with my community. So the 8% that I'm in, that universal word no, because there's no country you can go in this world where no is not understood. I understand.
The other way of looking at that as well, Denise, I was kind of piggybacking a little bit, is basically that what I heard, is the power of an emphatic yes, right? So by saying what you're going to say, knowing what you're going to say yes to, and holding to that, you're automatically saying no to the things that you need to do, right? And so, she gave me an amen. We're doing good right now, y'all. And so keep that in mind as we're moving through this process. There's great things that we've done up to this point and where we are. One of the things I'm listening for as well is when people are giving answers to these questions, is where you're coming from. Sometimes when we do these deep dives, you'll only hear the pain bubbling up. You won't necessarily hear all the triumphs. But if you look around the room, there are a great amount of triumphs happening even in this moment. And I think there's something important to make sure that we keep a good centered perceptual position of where we are. Make sure it's centered in reality, both sides of the coin, even though there's pain, but we only know pain because we also know joy, right? We only know the bad because we only know the other side. And so keep that in mind. That's first part of life. And for us to get to a place of resilience as well, that's always having centered in reality. We need to know history, reclaim some of the things that we need to go back and reclaim. I think, Takia, you gave a comment in one of the sessions about regeneration. I think when you get to the place of reclaiming what we need to, there is a revitalization that's possible, but there's a process. Anything else? Yes.
Can I add to that? I wasn't going to say it, but I think we're free. We are freer than we think.
Sure. Yeah. She gave you to say more.
Oh, well, we talked about this, but I've been thinking about this biblical text of like, there's a man who's sick at the pool of Bethesda, and Jesus comes and asks him, do you want to be made whole? And he gives him all these reasons and excuses why he can't do it, why he can't get to the pool, or why he can't be healed. And so Jesus just says to him, like, yo, get up, take your mat and walk. And so some of that is about seeing yourself as healed, seeing yourself as free, seeing yourself as capable, and I think that speaks to you where we see a lot of our pain because it's in front of us. We can feel it, but we also can feel that freedom, and we might need to tap into it because we're not as trained by the systems that are within to hone in on that and build that. So I think if we begin to think that we are actually freer than we think, we'll start to seek that freedom that will affirm the freedom we already have.
Good point. Good point. I think there's. Oh, where are we? Yes.
I just want to get back to the 92%. I mean, I wish I could be in the 92%. I really do. But you brought up Shirley Chisholm, someone from her era that I live by the adage of what Fannie Lou Hamer said. She's sick and tired of being sick and tired. And as long as you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you can't be in the 92%.
And then Fannie got up and told the Democratic Party we need a new Democratic Party.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Any other comments for the second question? What? Oh, jeez, please. Second question: why are we actually here? As you think about our particular purpose, we talked a little bit about where we're centering and what we've contributed, but also if you think about the next 250, why are we here? What are we here to impose, create, develop, love? It's a reason why I'm asking. Yes.
I think a lot about how we're manifesting new kinds of power. Not that we don't have power already, but within a diaspora, I think we are kind of returning to how we connect across borders, across cultures, across different ways of being.
Gotcha. Love that. Hey,
We've always served as, I think, both the mirror and the moral compass for this country.
yeah.
And so when I think about why we are here today, I think it is to continue to do that work.
Mirror and moral compass. Yep. Heard that before. Yes. You don't need
I am here to remember that there is a lot of people that looks like me that are doing things and that are also trying to enjoy life even if we are not. So I find solace in being in a room where the people is feeling the way they're feeling, thinking the way I'm thinking, and trying to connect to do more with that. So I'm here to remember that.
Right. Can I push you a little bit? You getting outside of FOTD, us as a community, why are we here?
Well, to change things, right? I mean, to make sure that things don't change.
Okay. Okay.
Or to make sure that the changes are for the better of our community.
Where do we go? Ooh, Lord, there we go. Want to go here first? And then we'll swing around.
I think at the highest level, we are here to begin the transformation of what America and the world has been to what it should be. And we are the ones that can do that, I believe.
I'll pay you for that later.
I feel like we are here to create a better situation and future for the next generation.
I think that we are here for many reasons, but one of them is just trying to take in back what was stolen for us, our dignity, peace, living in a community, just trying to have a better life, and also trying to build something for the new generation, just to make sure that they have access to the things that we couldn't, and also just to maybe they create a better world for the other next generation, just to make sure that as a Black people, we can see our future like in dignity.
Well, I have an example on why we shouldn't stop here, and we have more power than we think. I had the opportunity to serve at the Embassy of Colombia in the United States under the leadership of Afro-Colombian man that is now running for president. And I want to share with you this picture because I think that this picture inspired him to do what he's doing now. This picture is with Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was his mentor when he went to Colombia as in exile. And Reverend Jesse Jackson ran for the office, and just as Shirley Chisholm, everyone thought that he was crazy. We are doing that now, not believing that we are crazy because we have the example of Jesse Jackson. And I want African Americans know that you are our inspiration in the diaspora. In that moment, maybe they felt powerless too. But that was the seed that helped have Obama as president, and that helped us, to all of us, be here today, that you know that we are Afro-Colombians and we exist. And that is not only in politics, only with our entrepreneurs that you already know, our artists that are now saying, oh, reggaeton is our music. Why Colombians or Puerto Ricans are making money with our music? No, we are not powerless. We have power all the time. And the seeds that we are now trying to make grow, even if with all the challenges, is normal. Nobody is going to give you anything. So I think what we are doing, we are here because we are continuing that path that others open for us.
Thank you so much. So very similar to what I was thinking about the question in terms of, I think of us as an opportunity to honor our ancestors and to honor the work that they've done, right? Those who are with us, those who are not, and also an opportunity to continue working towards that legacy work.
Kind of going off of that, I think about my grandmother's prayers and her great-grandmother's prayers for us to have freedom and for us to be able to express our joy, and as a lot of you guys have said, to make the future generations make the world better for them.
Yeah, thanks. I think we're here to strategize. I think, there's a collective genius here, and we don't get to all come together, right? And I think that it's something that Dr. Huffman mentioned. Our problems are diasporic. We now have an opportunity to convene, to come together, to tap into our collective genius and think about solutions. But also, how do we action plan those solutions, and how do we bring our resources together to action plan those solutions? I think this is the opportunity to do that.
I think that if life began with us, then life will need to continue with us. And so we're here to ensure humanity continues. Africa is the only continent, and South America, where a lot of us are the only continents without nuclear weapons. So if the world goes to hell, guess where you're going? So get your dual citizenship, all right?
I would say that we're also here to unlearn as much as we're here to learn. I think bad behavior and bad assumptions are learned, just like good behavior and good assumptions. And I think for the past 400 plus years, we've
embraced a lot of assumptions that have been harmful to our people. Like one is the current economic models that we are embracing as a pathway to prosperity. I think we need to think hard about whether this current economic system is actually working for us. I would also say that we also need to begin to think about within ourselves where we get our value from and why is that value a lot of times related to our proximity to whiteness. I think that is another thing that I think we need to really interrogate. I also think that we need to also unlearn the lack of trust that we have for each other that has been embedded in us for hundreds of years and for a lot of different reasons. And I also think that we have to also learn that in order to be free, we have to be willing to give up as much as we're willing to give. And I think that, you know, as long as we believe that our values are tied to how many chicken dinners we're invited to every year at every festival or gala, or that, you know, that because of our proximity to certain people, I'll leave it at that, I don't want to go too far, that gives us our value, right? And so I think that this provides a space for us to unlearn a lot of things that have been harmful to our communities and begin to learn a new way forward together.
One more question. Since we are pressed for time, I want to give you two things. So what I also heard, and Dr. Huffman and I have talked about this before, it's coming to me now. So I do it in the R's. I think for us to get to a point or where we really want to go, there is a necessary reclamation. And the old preacher's coming out. So there is a reclamation. So we go back and retrieve things, you know, the idea of Sankofa. But we need to go back and make sure what have we lost that we no longer have. I think going through that process, though, once you get to that, there is a kind of a reconciliation. And if those of us in accounting, we basically just point in time assessment. This is where we are. After that, you have to have what I would call a reckoning. This is a reality check for really where we are. What are the things that we've lost, looking at where we are in the point in time, and then really having the hard conversation, because some of this we may be doing possibly to ourselves.
I feel like as I was listening to you talk, you're describing an individual or community that is in the process of being healed. Like, that's kind of what came to my mind, is a healed person, someone that, yes, was afflicted, yes, was sick, but has done the self-work, but has done the resistance work to make sure, one, those things don't happen again, and two, it's just about, you know, overall, more holistically better. So that's what came to my mind, like a healing element.
A healed nation, a healed whatever. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Yes. Collective economics. Absolutely. Right.
I would say, I don't think I need the microphone. I would say peace and peace of mind, because we always been fighting. And at what point will the fighting stop? So if we can get to a place where we have peace and peace of mind, then to me that we've earned what we've been looking to accomplish.
Right on.
I think having access to the resources that we need to live fully.
Okay.
The world is and those don't have access to the resources that are needed to live fully. I cannot create in a space of depletion.
Pulling that thing toward us than moving away from the pain. Not saying that we don't recognize where it is, but sometimes in certain conversations we can tell that the pain is also the fuel. And if the pain is the fuel, what happens when you move, if pain is the fuel, what happens when you move away from that fuel station? You're going to find another pain. You're going to have to refuel on some of it, something else. So keep that in mind. when you're framing this answer, what are we pursuing? What do we want?
I feel like as I was listening to you talk, you're describing an individual or community that is in the process of being healed. Like, that's kind of what came to my mind, is a healed person, someone that, yes, was afflicted, yes, was sick, but has done the self-work, but has done the resistance work to make sure, one, those things don't happen again, and two, that you're, overall, more holistically better. So that's what came to my mind, like a healing element.
A healed nation, a healed, whatever. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Yes.
Collective economics.
Collective economics. Absolutely. Right.
I would say, I don't think I hit the microphone. I would say peace and peace of mind, because we always been fighting. And at what point will the fighting stop? So if we can get to a place where we have peace and peace of mind, then to me that we've earned what we've been looking to accomplish.
Right on.
I think having access to the resources that we need to live fully.
Okay.
The world uses government folks don't have access to the resources that are needed to live fully. I can't create in a space of depletion.
I can't, fully create or do what I was put on this earth to do when I am thinking about a meal or where I'm going to live. So having the resources to live like fully and freely, and when an individual is able to actually self-actualize, that is where the world actually benefits.
It kind of touches on a few of the other points, but I think the how is through forgiveness. It's something I've been working on in therapy, but forgiving yourself, but then also forgiving those who have harmed you. And so until you can see a person through a lens of forgiveness, you really can't receive even their allyship or other things. So I think we have to forgive ourselves. We have to forgive our brothers and sisters that are not on this journey with us. And through that forgiveness, I think that will help perpetuate, through example, how do you get to a place where you can do all of these other things as well. But until you have that internally, you can't give it and you can't really truly receive it either.
Yes. You want to do?
I'm gonna let you close. I'm gonna let you do the benediction. I just want to make one observation first. He gave us a beautiful question. What are we pursuing? And we were quiet. Just rest with that. We're quiet on that. So, bro, we won't get the strategy if we're quiet on what we're pursuing. And I think that was, I love the conversation with you today, but I think that's revelatory and something to take home with you and say, why did I not have anything to say on the pursuit part? I'm not blaming you. I'm just asking you to observe that with me and ask yourself, where else am I might be quiet on the pursuit? Because it's that momentum. I think anger does what it needs to do, but it's fleeting. Anger is fleeting. Pain is fleeting. But pursuit will always get you to motivate, all right? I just want to observe that with us. And I'm going to give the mic over to the Right Reverend Dr. Trayvon Deadwyler. He's going to send us home.
So, of course, the benediction is always like a call to action as well. But the idea of, I'll give you this last question as well, is how do we get there? We have a little bit more time here at the FOTD, and I would love for you to continue this conversation at lunch, at dinner, actually beyond this conference. That's really important because one of the things that we can do, we all have emails that are coming in right now. phone calls waiting on us, family, friends, colleagues, crazy bosses, whatever it may be. Or maybe we are the crazy boss. And so keep that in mind. And please have that conversation. So please write this down. How do we get there? But if you were also stuck on what is it that we want, here's a little something. Think about, this is something I would do, we were coaching, like write down all the stuff that, I don't want to, write all the stuff down that you don't want. Flip the paper, write the opposite. Simple technique, straightforward. Because a lot of times we can always get into the things that we just don't want. It's easier for folks, but when it's, so what now? What do you want specifically? That's how I can get people to shift their mind really fast. So if you're stuck in we don't know what we want, shift it from there. And then the last thing is, after you have that conversation, put down one actionable goal, something that you're actually going to do, and actually tell it to someone, find someone in the room to tell it to, of how you're actually going to pursue that particular legacy and contribution. I want to say thank you all so much for the time that you've given us. I hope this conversation was meaningful. Hopefully it was inspirational, but also really just practical. We didn't hoop and holler. We didn't do any of that stuff because that's not our style. But we do want you to think and then act on that thinking. So thanks so much for being here. And we will see you at the rest of the conference.